want to hear about your start with On It. How did that all come to pass? How did that begin?
You probably relate, how did this all come about? You had some type of loose understanding of what you wanted to build, and then it started to manifest itself.
Yes.
Like this space created itself as you started, it started calling you to do certain things. I could see it. That's kind of the way I see it coming to fruition. And for me in my career, a lot of things just made sense to me, but only to me until it started to make sense to everybody else. And what I mean by that is I had a little... So I was like kettlebell certified, and I got into like club swinging and the ground-based mobility stuff back in 2003. I think I was like the second or third RKC certification, just like you were at one of the earliest On It certifications. Mm-hmm. But I was doing it at that time just like personal development, because I just got through my initial phase of recovery from meth addiction. So I was like using all of this stuff to reclaim a sense of like physical capacity as a vehicle to make sure I still felt it was like an entry point to the mental, emotional, spiritual stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why hopefully as you came through the course, it like, man, he talks a lot about personal development while we're swinging steel shit all through the sky. It's like I just always have to fold it in. So eventually I had this little facility in Monterey, California, and it made sense to me that these things, they all needed to work together rather than at the time, fitness has evolved a lot since then, but back then you might be like, I'm a kettlebell guy, I'm a yoga practitioner, I'm a bodybuilder. And now, you have the concept, even term like hybrid athlete, mm-hmm. and you have things like MMA that have really influenced the fact that multimodal approaches are sometimes the most effective approach. Like you box a wrestler, wrestle a boxer, right? What you got to contextualize stuff. And so to me, it made sense. So I swung kettlebells, swing clubs, or swinging shit. Why can't I figure out how they all play nice? And then mm-hmm. suspension training, body weight, mobility, ground-based movement. A lot of it made me feel like I was a ninja. Like I was, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a ninja. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yes. So I'm still a ninja.
Yeah. Oh, closest thing I've ever met to one.
You're my ninja.
It is so funny that you mention the spiritual side of the training elements that you implemented with On It, with the flow, with how you taught. That was one of the biggest key indicators that I picked up on when I took your course. And it's still to this day, because now I've taken dozens. It's one of the biggest differentiator between the way you taught and the way everybody else that I've ever been under has taught me. You have a very, very spiritual side to your movement patterns. It's so much more than just, okay, how can we lift this? How can we lift it fast? How can we lift it powerfully? It was much more about how can you become in touch with yourself? How can you connect with your body and help it understand why you wanted to do these movements? Like, what exactly is this doing for me on a human level? Mm-hmm. Speak to that a little bit, because that's one of the biggest things I wanted to ask you, sort of where that came from.
Well, before we get into anything deep, I just got to ask you, you're talking about in touch with myself. Did you have a camera in the bathroom? Because I may have touched myself briefly, but I thought nobody was watching, No, have to lighten the mood a little bit. No,
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, but realistically, so, people ask you why or how. Like for me, it's really funny. I was a sensitive kid. I kind of grew up in a rough neighborhood. My dad was like, man, we need to put you in martial arts because you ain't even fighting to protect your toy. Like, oh, what happened to your toy? This kid wanted it more than me. No big deal. You're like, nah, if you ever come home without your toy or without an ass whooping, you're going to get an ass whooping. I'm like, oh, I see. There's something I need to learn, mm-hmm. like self-preservation and like protective mechanisms. Like I just didn't really have it hardwired. But when I went to martial arts, what it wasn't about the physical practice, right? We meditated, we did all these things that were part of martial art culture, but my teacher also instilled a code of conduct through our bylaws that framed my belief in what it meant to be a good person. Yeah, there are character traits and values that were expected to be upheld in the dojo and outside the dojo. And there were repercussions, you know what I mean? If you fail to do so, I may have experienced that once. Yeah. I only needed it once because it was a level of shame in an environment where I otherwise thrived, and I took leadership role even as a youth, so that's like where I learned to coach. But also it was pre-MMA, but it was a mixed martial art traditional. It's like a mixed bag of traditional martial arts. It was called Bojuka, and it was boxing, judo, jiu-jitsu, and karate. And so like it's really interesting, right?
Fascinating.
So my sensei, he was a hand-to-hand combatants instructor for the U.S. Army, and he traveled all around the world, and he was a lifelong learner, martial artist. So he amalgamated a lot of these traditional martial arts, and he had a great fighting career, tournament fighting in a variety of different sports. So he basically was just saying, like what we said before, what works is what's right. You know what I mean? And so if you learn to do what's the rightest action, the path of least resistance to obtain the victory with that opponent at that moment, then you have a better understanding of what your relative skill sets are and how they match up and how they stack up. Because I don't know if anybody's ever done any martial arts. It's one of those weird things where like, I kick your butt every time, you kick his butt every time, but he kicks my butt every time. It's like kind of like fire, ice, and what I'm saying, like the elemental things. You're like, how does that card trump me when I don't get it.
Yeah.
But you start to learn to contextualize stuff. So for me, instead of saying this is the right way, that gave me a frame of reference. Is like the right way has to be in that moment and for that person. And the practice of the martial arts for me was really a self-affirming practice. So I learned about the context of that, the bylaws. They had specific words, and what did those words mean? It became a resonant frequency of my character in my spine, my nervous system. And when I wasn't in alignment, that's when I found myself in those darker parts of life. And the physical practice to me was realigning myself with the belief of what I was taught as a young man and what I felt I lost. So every rep was not just to like move the weight. It was to reaffirm that I could still live by these values that really I defined a good person by, and I wanted to reclaim that perspective of self, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
From hearing it, it's you used your physical training to align your body and align your spirit in the same way. You used your physical training to find that balance in your spirituality. Is that fair? Is that the way you?
Yeah, man. And then someone you didn't get to interact with, but was a big part of my formative years of designing education is somebody I brought into On It later, Shane Hines. We had worked together for quite a long time before I got to On It. He was in Canada, I was in California, but we'd always cross-pollinate ideas. We collaborated on reformulating education for other organizations we were part of, redesigning and delivering. And so he and we always had that kind of that spiritual component. So to us, even in the design of things that we've done for On It, like the courses, as we design them, we always, even if we didn't tell you, but sometimes we would create like a thematic like through line. So like if we're teaching a club swinging, it was like the vortex of vitality. So like this you're swinging this thing. It's almost like a flywheel, right? And the more you swing it, the more you're creating this neural charge.
Yes, and it answers back. Yes.
Yeah, and so like you said, like centering yourself and tapping back in. But each tool, and this is I think is really cool that you were saying. By the way, thank you. I didn't say that earlier. That really hit home. But to feel like that resonated through those kind of deeper messages in the delivery. But every tool really is just there as a feedback mechanism, right? Every tool is not about like, yes, there's an artful expression of your movement that you could see. If you don't do it well, the tool doesn't move, you don't move well, there's not harmony in that, and you can see it. Like if you're a little kid, like I wanted to be a ninja. If I watch a ninja movie, I'm like, that dude's a badass. And then I would like, if I was to film myself trying to do it, I'm like, nah, that dude's not. Like, you don't have to be really aware to know when things are wrong. You can recognize it really fast.
Yeah, you can see it.
But and you can also recognize beautiful movement really fast without having to have a formal education in it. And so I think just having those moments, those states, and that's what On It and I really aligned to. Is the big concept for them was, what is On It? It's eliciting flow state. I was on it. Right. Yeah. And so like in the practice of all the different movement modalities that that I brought into amalgamated our education system. The undercurrent is like, how do we find flow state? And it's about finding those moments of alignment within your body and in a relationship with the tool and with the environment, and everything melts away. Kind of like being in that sensory deprivation tank you got back there, baby.
Yeah, buddy. No, you've used the word alignment so many times, and you used it so many times during the course. I remember that. For those who have never taken it, and I know you guys haven't, so I'll give you every single movement had to be understood by the class before you would progress. Whether it was something seemingly simple like a battle rope where you wanted to create maybe 3 to 5 small waves from here to your point, and it had to be done correctly, and if it wasn't, everybody would set the rope down, get down on the mat, go on your knees, and it would be explained, it would be talked about, it would be, questions would be asked. Again, it was one of the most interactive, aligned pieces of certification for it. I don't even want to call it strength training because it wasn't. It was different than, I've taken so many of those courses where you are sort of taught at the whole time. You sit down and he goes through these points and you've got a book and you read. That's most of the time what happens in a certification. This is what I came to appreciate about On It, and specifically John, when I went, was how different that was. This was closer to a yoga. It was a yoga class with strength training tools that was done over 2 days or 2.5 days with just more interaction. It was really, really special. It was very unique.
You know what's funny? Oh, sorry, Jake. Go ahead.
It sounds like kind of a team collaboration, like a team aspect to it too. So everyone basically has to be on the same wavelength in order to progress. Is that right?
Yeah, man. I think you hit the nail on the head. You said it's collaborative learning experience, right? And as a teacher, I'm more of a facilitator, right? It's like, I'm not telling you, I'm saying like, let's have this moment of mutual discovery, because every time I'm in this position, I still want to be curious and in awe of what we can discover together in this moment, because every cert there's a new layer peeled back, right? But there's Shane and I, my buddy, and my he's like, if we popped up on your shoulders, like you're a little conscious, I'd be the devil, he'd be the angel. Right? Like, hey, let's do this. He's like, no, maybe you shouldn't do that, Brandon. Like, no, I'm like, no, let's do it. I don't care what happens. So a big part of it would be there's a difference between participation and contribution. And for people to really feel like they're learning, they need to feel like they're in ownership of the learning experience. They need to be allowed to and expected to contribute.
I love that.
So I think that's what. But man, it was 2 days, but it was 4 days worth of content in 2 days. And back then I had no time management. So Brandon was like, we just did it until we got it right. I think they were like 11-hour days.
I think they were closer to 13-hour days. I remember it was dark when we started and dark when we stopped. But the crazy thing was, I think maybe we stopped for a protein bar at the gym once. Like, you did not stop for a full weekend going, but you didn't even realize that like any time had gone by. It was very, very weird. It was like a vortex. It was the On It gym. I can't wait to take you guys out there, even just to see it. It is a very unique place. But the way that I was most gravitated toward it was through the education, was through the teaching, was through the coaching. How much of that was, you've mentioned Shane, who I don't know. I'd love to meet him. You and Shane, I know Aubrey was there at the Genesis. How important was education at the dawn of On It?
It's funny. So On It definitely preceded, On It preceded Alpha Brain, but that's kind of like the unofficial, or the really when they put the stake in the ground, or when On It was born, when they launched Alpha Brain. Mm-hmm. And then I got involved. They had already designed specialized kettlebells. They already were selling maces. They were already selling their own clubs, battle ropes. So Aubrey, he kind of spearheaded. He's a philosophy major. He is alignment with ancient warrior cultures. He drew a lot of inspiration from that. So that's where a lot of these tools he brought in, and I just happened to be on a concurrent path using them in my little facility in California. Eventually they're like, it's cool. We have all this stuff, but nobody fucking knows how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we like a lot of the guys who ended up being prolific coaches, like Juan and Eric, they were a part of those early days on it before on it existed. And Eric would work in the warehouse and they're like, just film the buff young dudes that are unpacking kettlebells, doing some kettlebell stuff, but they're still just, you know, it's just like, it was really about how cool the tool was, and they're still really young, green. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they're like, you know, if we want this to be something special, we need to put some education behind it. And Aubrey had that vision. My predecessor, Mark DeGrasse, he had a publication called My Mad Methods. It was a magazine dedicated to unconventional training methods. And that's how I ended up at On It. He came to my gym. I used to be part of a different organization in leadership, and he wanted to see somebody swing clubs because it was really kind of not very common. Kettlebells were still young at the time, youngish. And
clubs even more so.
Clubs even more
clubs
so.
Are even more so than kettlebells.
Even now, club swinging is not very common.
No.
And so he someone I was working with in that organization got pinged by Mark, and then he's like came over to work with one of my coaches on some club content. And I'm like, man, you're here. You're a content marketer. You know, you probably want more content. Like, what if you want me to do something? He's like, yeah, you know, let's do something. I was like, well, I have no idea what your readership wants to see. So he said, okay, you can take path A or path B. He's like, either do something really fucking heavy. I was like, man, I could do really heavy. I'm pretty strong, but there's a lot of people who could probably, kettlebells only progress in certain increments. So I can press a beast. Other people can press a beast. That's not going to, it tops out at a certain point. You know, it stops to be as impressive. He said, or do something people have never seen before. I'm like, challenge accepted.
I can do that.
I was like, I don't know. I'm going to try to do something legend. Wait for it. Dairy. So this is at Dog Pound in New York. That was a big ass kettlebell.
Oh, that's a big kettlebell.
That's a good stuff.
That was a big kettlebell. And then I like to play like a lot of this ground based stuff. So that's what it was. I had my coach. He was an MMA fighter, mm-hmm. and I said, hey, name a ground based movement. I'll turn it into like a integrated flow with a kettlebell. And so I did all this weird stuff on the fly and put it out on YouTube through Mark's publication. And then people started trying to do it, and I was like, whoa. Don't try to do that. That was me trying to be crazy, try to like do something fun, but you're gonna hurt yourself. And so I designed an education system to build like reverse engineer the process. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then when Mark took the job at On It, they bought the magazine. They rebranded it as On It Academy.
Yep.
The magazine. And then he said Aubrey told him like, hey man, we want to start an education system. And Mark's like, whoa, you know. He's like a hard worker. Man, he was the president of Digital Marketer not too long ago, like the brand Digital Marketer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty cool to see,
see
where he's taken his career. But then he's like more like behind the scenes kind of guy.
Sure.
Right? He's like, I'm not the guy, but I know the guy. You know, so they bring me out and I interview with Aubrey. Pretty sure most of the interview we might have been talking about whether or not any of our psychedelic experiences aligned, or I was like, I didn't know.
Shocker. Yeah.
I didn't know that I was going to learn something, but I learned something when I thought I was just young and experimenting, but I learned some shit.
Oh, absolutely.
I figured some shit out. Mm-hmm. He's all, yeah, bro. That's how it happens with all of us. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you were enlightened already, and then you just added to it with, some new experiences, but no. And we hit it off. And then I was going to work remotely from California designing education. Mm-hmm. Eventually, they already had signed the lease for the gym. And when they figured out, like, hey, it doesn't make sense to have an education system that isn't implemented in our physical location. Mm-hmm. How much would it cost? Change your proposal to move to Austin. I said, okay. And so it was a big investment on their part. I never want to discount it. What a blessing it was to be there at that point and to be able to like contribute in a way that when I talked to you, I was on a call with a guy, Danny Cola, yesterday, and he was telling me like I'd only met him in the parking lot one time, but he had consumed some of the educational content through some of our master coaches and then mm-hmm. also digitally. And like, man, I've been on a hiatus. I haven't really been doing my thing for the last year, kind of like centering and figuring out. I didn't know if anybody gave a shit if I would come back. And then I talked to you, and you're like, you basically slapped me through my freaking Instagram. Like, bah!
We give a shit if
Bah,
you come
get
back.
up.
Yeah, no. It would. One of the first people I can remember wanting to do an interview with when we started this was you. I even told you this. This was probably 6 years ago when I first came to him and said we had it in there with a folding chair and 2 external microphones that we had to record the same episode.
Don't ever watch that episode
4 times in a row just to get it going. And of course he's always been the guy. He's kind of like always thinking ahead further than I am. He's like, well, who do you want to interview? I mean, when we do get it to where we want it, who do you want? I'm like, well, I mean, there's a couple people I can think of. One is this guy I just took the certification from, John Wolf. Anybody had on it, but especially him. Yeah. I can remember that being one of the first people that I wanted to talk to. And it's really cool to see it come full circle, man. And I can tell you right now, I am so thankful that I took that course in person. You've touched on it briefly here, and it is very, very worth noting. The difference between an absorbed certification or an educational learning program that you take online versus something that you experience in person. There just really is no substitute. And there are some good online programs. There are some good coaches that do the very best they can, and they actually make a good product. And obviously there's no ceiling cap on a product like that. And from a business standpoint, I get why they do it. But there is nothing in this life better than actually being and standing in front of a coach, learning in a group as a team in a facility. There is nothing better than that. All the best things I've learned in life have always been from that kind of a setting taken in person.
Yeah, man. I felt like I'd lost a sense of how much I loved that until recently. I had this client that lives in North Carolina come stay at my house for a couple of days, because I'm just now getting into online coaching. I know you guys do that, so we can talk some shop. I want to.
Oh, heck yeah!
I want to learn everything.
I like that.
You know, download me like the Matrix. Like, I know kung fu. I wanted to know your kung fu, okay?
Oh, but I like that idea.
But what I did is I'm like, I kind of want to experiment with this. I'm an educator as much as like I see myself more as an educator than an online coach in terms of how I want to like impart things. So I was like, you know, I want to try this VIP day concept. You come over a couple days. I just basically like an intensive, personalized seminar for this one person in phased approaches, integrating like facilitated stretching, you know, like basically just like remapping the whole neuromuscular system so that she can go in the gym and kill it. And I was like, this is how it used to feel facilitating educational experiences. Like, you see the light bulbs go off, and I was like, I'm on fire. Come on, like this, like give me more. And I'm just looking for the vein. I'm slapping, like put the belt on, like, and you teach seminar, you know. And so I've been talking to people lately, and I was like, dang, I think I need to get back on the seminar teaching circuit, man. This is it. Like, I want a digital. I want to be able to reach people outside my geographic restrictions, right?
Absolutely.
But I want to fold in VIP days, like for people who are really invested in learning, and I want to be out there and working with coaches, because coaches affect so many other people's lives, right? And so it's great to have the fire back. It's awesome to be here and like to know that our paths like really intersected at a critical point for both of us, man. Mm-hmm. I was really green in teaching that. So you're like one of the, probably third class I taught that cert. I'm like I think I'm catching a good rhythm here.
Oh, like, it didn't feel like your third class. If you'd have told me it was your third time doing a class, I never would have known. Not a chance. I'd have thought you were a guy who'd been doing this for 10 lifetimes.
Well, I did other certs. I taught other people's certs, or like help do that. So I taught a lot. Yeah. But that one.
Teaching is such an incredible and invaluable tool. It's not something everyone has. That's the other thing. There are very, very good practitioners that have a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding on the body and training, and they can implement it on themselves, but they're not good teachers. There's a lot of people like that. A lot of people in strength training like that, and there's people that are good at content marketing and really good at, selling their online program and stuff, but they're still not good teachers. In-person teaching is a very unique skill. And unfortunately, I think it's a skill people never really fail to undervalue until they take it. When you're somebody who values it and you actually take the time to fly out to Austin and actually sit in a room with somebody or go to a VIP seminar, and then you get it and then you leave and you're like, oh, okay, I've never been taught anything in my entire life. Every single thing I did, I learned. But since I had my time with you, I got a degree. I got a master's degree. There's nothing that I've ever done, especially not anything online, that's ever come close to the 2 days I spent in the gym at On It with you.
Dang,
this is not even close.
You blow my mind.
Yeah.
Now I feel more obligated. I gotta do.
You gotta do
something.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it is a sin if you don't, because there are very few people that are like you. There are very few people that can do it that way. And it's matched by the amount of time you have, the reps you've done it now. I mean, now it's, you're not green. Now it's you're a seasoned warrior. You're a vet. You've got all the reps. Yeah,
I'm more gray now. More gray.
more gray.
Gray
More
wolf.
It's a good thing though, man. Yeah. What is, because obviously you mentioned, you mentioned this early on in the episode in the discussion, and I wanted to make sure I circle back to it. Where has this understanding of strength training for you really come into play? And you mentioned your time with drug addiction, methamphetamine, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah, I was 130 pounds, bro.
Really?
Yeah, is that crazy?
Yes.
That's what I weighed in 8th grade, and I weighed it again as an adult. It's
So-
like nuts.
Tell me about this, because this is a side of you that I don't think many people know. I definitely didn't know anything about this.
I think to me it's really important to share that, because you know how many people experience things, the darkest parts of their life, and they do it in shame and in hiding, and when I've told people yeah, dude, this is my history, how many people have lit up and said I never would have thought that about you? I was like, why?
Like a physical, visceral reaction to hearing that. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
You were addicted to that?
And then, and also they only see the end result. I had a really amazing, dream job at On It, and I get to do things at the brand that a lot of people valued. And so they have an attachment to what that means about me. But I mean, do you know what my experience is I've fallen on my fucking face over and over and over again. And you know what was really magical about even having public failure, as long as you're moving towards your goal, people don't even remember. They just know where you end up. I tell my clients this, I was like, hey, that door is your goal, right? Just move towards the goal. And now I like to fuck with them, stand right in front of them. And then they look at me what are you worried about me for? Get to the door. And then they try to walk by me and I push them. And they get mad. I'm like, go towards the door. I was if you trip and you fall towards the door. When you fail, you can make a little ground. And when you stand up, bring your feet to where your hands are, not the other way around. Fight for every inch. You play football. It's a game of inches, right? I mean, you're coaching for football athletes, and they care about those inches, right? So, this whole process to me is you have much more formal education in movement science. My 2 degrees are in electronics technology, an associate's degree, right? I grew up in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, so
yeah, there you go.
I was like, I'll just do some electronic shit, and then a business management degree.
Yeah,
but because of that time when I was battling my demons, and because of my martial arts practice and the perspective that gave me, I just really dove into, okay, I'm going to go through a personal training certification. And then it was a well-known bodybuilder was teaching the live workshop, but he was hurt. He was hurting. You could hear the grunting, and it was his body was hurting. And I was like, not to say that that's just the product of bodybuilding, but I don't want to be hurting as I continue my physical practice.
Amen.
And so I was like, man, and I would go to the gym, and these guys were really buff, and they're really strong, but they're doing the same routine they were doing 10 years ago, but they're actually getting diminishing returns every workout. I was like, this isn't the paradigm that I want to buy into. I found Pavel Tsatsouline's writings in Muscle Media 2000. It was an EAS sponsored publication. I was like, this dude's funny. Let me try this. It seems simple. I was like, damn, this shit really works. And then he came up with kettlebells. all the stuff. Really, it was just the superimposing the lessons from the mixed martial art that I was part of, and not saying one thing's right, one thing's wrong. They all fit together. Use the right tool at the right time, and then just layers of education and seeking out whoever was best at what they did, and bringing them into my facility and layering everything on top of each other. There's a couple. So the RKC was like a really condensed, really focused education. It taught you really great intentionality. I was like, okay, can I apply that intentionality to all the other practices? Mm-hmm. Then I was doing the club swinging and ground-based mobility systems. It was called circular strength training. It was like Scott Sonnen. He also had the TAC Fit system. Shane and I were like delivering their education and refining it and doing a lot of different things together there. And I was like, okay, that intentionality, that level of technical granularity, and apply it to all these things that were like three-dimensional, and just like started to blow my mind. And it's like, okay, they didn't like it when I was doing this other stuff, and then when I would implement like other external education, because they wanted to stay in the system, but my system isn't like.
You're combining modalities. Do you hear where I get it from?
Yeah.
Like how many times I've gone through this, taking from all the different facets of strength and conditioning and mobility and groundwork and breath work and meditation, all of it coming together. That's where I found the most green grass. That's where I have found the best training for longevity. I don't want to be hurt either.
Yeah.
What you're saying is exactly what I was finding with my time even at the NFL. There was a lot of stuff I took from that was absolutely revolutionary, what Ian Danny's doing over there. He was already training in a way that was different than a lot of the other people in his area. But the athletes were still hurt. And whether or not it was from football, they were always hurt, and they were doing sort of the same type of stuff. But I took what I learned from him, and I absorbed it. And I took what I learned from you, and I absorbed that. And being a well-rounded coach, I really think that is the best way to do this. Everyone kind of likes to fit themselves into one little box, one little groove. You got, stop at 90 degrees, go ass to ground. You got all these different people who are saying, no, this is the way, it's my way, I've got a patent on it, I've got my this is the way. And that's just not indicative of real life. That's not the way that real life works. You need to combine from different ideas in order to figure out what works for you, and most likely what's going to produce the most well-rounded human.
Dude, you're like, this is what it's really about. Like, you could, the dissemination of information is almost useless in this day and age. Information is free, is overly abundant, and it's confusing to be able to understand what to value
in everything.
Because this says to do like astrographs. This says 90 degrees. Which one's right? Well, they're both right at different times, or one's more right than the other. But you have to figure out how to qualify that. Like, no, it's on the internet. It's true. Like, okay, you're one of those. Like you're gonna have a really hard time in my seminar because you probably say this too. You'll never be able to take one of my seminars and say, John Wolfe said this is how it has to be done. I was like, no. I want to inspire and give frameworks to validate your thought process. It's scaffolding. And then I give you a paintbrush and an easel, and then you create art, and we come back and we talk about how technical the stroke was, and how that line, I was like, why did you draw that line that way? I was like, okay, cool. Hey, did you think about doing it this way? Let's try it both ways and like see what the differences are, because like Dr. Mark Chang, he's a good friend of mine, and he does great education. He's a great educator with martial arts, and he like very philosophical. And again, he's multimodal, many martial arts, multimodal, many different restorative methodologies, and he always says context is king. It's just like what's the answer, Doc? What's the answer? What's the right answer? I was like, you're gonna have to give me a lot more information for me to have an opinion. I don't know what the right answer is, but let's try to figure it out. You know?
I've never had an experience where the teacher asked more questions from the students than the other way around. Because almost always it's the other way around. You're up there, you're supposed to teach me, and I'm here, and I'm going to ask you questions. And most instructors will end with, all right, does anyone here have any questions? That's usually the way it goes. In his class, everything was reversed. We would do something, then he would ask, okay, now why did it feel that way? Why did you do it that way? What do you think this was? What did this accomplish? It was entirely turned around, and I could see it in some of these were also not like scrubs. This was mostly coaches that was in this room, in my particular class was in this room with me, and they were very kind of like, interesting. Okay, you're asking me. I thought I was supposed to kind of ask you. Let me think about it, because now you got me really thinking, and that's the key.
Yeah.
You ask the questions to your participants. That makes them think and come up with an answer.
Well, it's like it drives me crazy, the like ego that educators or even coaches have, where they co-opt another person's experiences. They're like, I did that. Like, no, dude, you didn't lift it for them. You know what I'm saying? You facilitated, you provided an environment, but you got to give them credit. You're like the guide in the hero's journey, not the hero. Let the hero be the hero, right? And so same thing with educators. Like, if you teach something, it's now you gave you gave your student something, hopefully something of value, something that they could really leverage to better themselves and other people. But it's no longer yours. Let go. And then if you taught them well, they'll honor you by putting their own signature on it. Like, if you look at the evolution of any type of art, there's say the Renaissance era, and the Renaissance era birthed the next era that evolved in line with the core beliefs, and then the antithesis, the opposite, evolution. Like, but both of them came from that, right? And they both needed to be there for the next thing to happen. And it doesn't make it right or wrong, but like, I can't be responsible for the choices you make when you leave this seminar, but I hope I can give you enough context and the tools to understand that you make an informed decision, because you have to make an informed decision for the benefit of you if you're your own coach, and for whoever you serve right there in front of you. Because no matter what I say in front of you in this seminar, like, I can't answer that question for you. You have to think right there on the spot and make a good choice. And you're going to be wrong, but be wrong fast so you can be right faster. You know what I mean? Like, don't be attached to being right all the time. We talked about mutual discovery. Like, when you're with a client, it's like, this works 80% of the time, but guess what? You're in the 20%. Let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. And then, okay, how's that feel? No, that didn't feel good. Okay, do this. Okay, retest this movement. Damn, that movement got better. We're gonna do more of that shit.
It's more. You're speaking exactly the truth that when I get a client, and a lot of times they've come from a setting where they've had another coach or two in their past, and they've had maybe a bad experience or a good experience, but usually good or bad. The coach doesn't align the program to the athlete. He tries to align the athlete to the program. And here's my program, and here's you, and I'm going to fit you in, and we're going to do these things. And that's entirely wrong. That's entirely backwards. Everything. This is a big thing that I really coach with people who come in. And one of the biggest things I found surprises them is that they want to, every once in a while they'll ask, like, hey, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I'm like, listen, we got to find out.
Yeah.
We got to work. I don't know what we're going to do yet. We got to get into this, and I got to learn about you. I know you came from an environment where your, evaluation was a picture, pinching your arm, and congrats, you're evaluated. That's not the way real life works. I need to learn about your body. I need to learn about you as a person. What do you want to do? What does your body want to do? And that's the way that I think coaching should be done properly.
And how do you envision yourself at end state? Like, we are in a place inspired by fucking superheroes. What is your fucking superpower when your mutant genes express themselves? What's gonna fucking happen? Ooh. Are you gonna shoot lasers out of your eyes? Sharks with lasers? I don't know, but let's find out. You know what I mean? And let's have fun finding out. Like, if you don't know what your latent mutant abilities are yet, I'm a Professor X that shit. I'm gonna nurture you until you figure it out, and then we're gonna hone it so you can actually use it for good, right?
Heck yeah.
And I love this style of teaching because not everyone has the same ability or modal of learning modality. So, like, I learn very hands-on. I was never the kid in class where, like, if I didn't understand something, I would stop the teacher and be like, hey, I don't understand that, because I would just put a spotlight on myself. But you asking questions and then you collaborating with the people that you're working with, that accommodates multiple modalities of learning, and I think that's really valuable for the student.
Yeah, man. I have to admit, like, I don't know that it's going to work the way I want it to. You know, people like a lot of times when people they're like, okay, you do this and I'll tell you what's going to happen. Oh, it didn't happen. You did it wrong.
Yeah.
I can't be wrong. You did it wrong. Like, no, you know, like back to what we were saying, like it doesn't teach people to think on their feet. It's like it's just black and white, and like the type of learning you thrive in, based on what you said, is it highlights so much. Education highlights what we feel is our deficiency, but doesn't facilitate like a solution for that unless someone's brave enough to raise their hand. But how few people are brave enough to raise their hand?
Yeah.
No one else is asking a question. I don't want to be the person. Everybody else understands. Nobody else understands, bro. Everybody's just afraid to ask the question. So, you know, a great coach I had, he's like, you know, we teach all this. We teach them, like, I mean, look at this place, bro. It's choose your own adventure out of the book into a fucking gym, you know? Every modality, like you said, like everything has to fit together. And then you're in here and you're talking to somebody like, what are your goals? What are your dreams? What superpower would you have? And you're like, guess what? If we put you in the float tank over here and then we do the ice, and then you're like, you know, you like choose your own adventure and experience to like facilitate like something that really like aligns with that, and you're like, okay, now stand in front of Iron Man, repulsor blast, you know, like, I don't know, but it's so cool to be in here because everything plug and play. Plug yourself out of your attachment to your current identity, and play and discover, like, wear a new fucking like. There's like I have a friend, he's doing some stuff with blenders. He's doing like an alter ego, puts on the sunglasses. You ever watch Big Daddy?
Yeah.
He's like, put the sunglasses on, you know, you're invisible. You're safe.
C.
Yeah. And so he's doing this like social media content where he puts on the glasses and he's like, he feels safe. He can be whoever he wants to be.
Yeah.
Like in here, that's what it's really about. But
playing fun and unplugging from the life that a lot of people don't want to be living. That's the truth of the matter. That's what I've really found, is that you, as a coach, as a practitioner, if you're somebody who's been placed in a role of leadership and you're working with people, you got to realize that sometimes the time they spend with you in their day, that's the only time they're going to really have fun. That's the only time in their day that they're really going to be happy. And a lot of times I think when, if you're a coach that's blessed and fortunate enough to actually do something you love, where you get to live in an environment that you created and help people all day long. And maybe you're like me, and most of the time I do find myself in a positive headspace where I'm thrilled. I'm excited to wake up at 5 a.m. every single day and work all the way until 11 o'clock at night. Like, I'm thrilled to do that. But most people don't have that. Most people don't get that. Most people, they have their lives, they have their jobs, and then occasionally they'll be blessed and they'll have something like this, where they'll be able to leave those things and they'll be able to come and they'll go into a place where they're like, oh man, this place is crazy. This is different. I'm learning from this guy. He's teaching me things that I've never learned about myself. Like, I didn't realize how high strung I was. I thought we were going to do this workout. Man, he had me just kneel in front of the red light and breathe for the first half hour of the entire thing. Because I couldn't even. I've had clients come in here like that. I've had clients come in here and within 5 minutes to start crying.
Well, I just was wondering, how come you had me grab my ankles in front of the red light? Is the red light really good for my taint? Is that what it was? I don't know. I did what you said. I'm pretty flexible too. I think it caught you off guard.
That's because there's a camera in that room.
we had P Diddy on before. So.
Oh man, P Diddle.
No,
P Diddles.
Yeah, who would have known how many people from our childhood are all going down?
No, they went down.
That too.
You know,
yeah, man.
It's so funny what you're saying. Like, we get back to this thing, the same thing you're doing here every day. If the lessons you learn in the gym only apply to what you do in the gym, it's a fucking waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't build like a frame of reference, like through conversational, like contextualization, or like, this is how you apply this in your relationship, because that's where you're probably the most stressed out, or this is how you apply this at work, you know, breath work and like recentering and reframing through language. Like, the conscious use of language in a coaching session should be like 80% of the value that you impart. Because the technical component, like, it's a variable thing. Like, you have to be a little flexible. You get to like refine as time goes on. It's kind of ebb and flow. Is it safe? Good. Then we can work from there and we can gradually tighten it up. But them experiencing their evolution from wherever they start, as long as it's safe, to wherever they end up, and how much more competent and confident they are physically, empowered by the like responsible and conscious use of language as from the coach. That's like instilling literal superpowers.
That's why they call it. That's why they call it spelling.
Yeah,
you're spelling. The way you speak and what you say to people generates energy, and it speaks to them, and it will cause a literal, visceral, like energetic response in them.
Yeah.
If you curse someone, they will feel that. They will feel your anger. They'll feel your distrust, whatever it is. If you bless someone, if you ask them about their day, if you tell them it's all going to be okay, this is just a tough time, wake up tomorrow, I guarantee you it's going to be better, they're going to feel that too. And that is, I mean, I've come to appreciate, man, so sometimes I wish I would have stayed awake in sports psychology. There's a lot more of that shit that comes up than you really realize. You think it's all about, oh, it's weights and reps and, figure out how to periodize and I'm good. It is almost all the relationship you form with the people you're with. That is almost all of it. Where they are, it is a big part of why they come and keep seeing you. They are actually learning from you. They are actually enjoying their time with you. That is a huge component of being a good mentor, a good coach, a good teacher, especially in person.
Man, you hit the nail on the head in so many ways right there. But like, well, I would definitely, if anybody's listening and wants to like deep dive that whole spelling, right? So a friend of mine, I was wearing his shirt when I walked in. So if anybody sees some of the B-roll and I'm wearing a different shirt than my wolf shirt right now.
We got to talk about this shit.
Yeah, we do. Oh, we're going to get into all of this too. Yeah.
And, it was an enlifted method, and it's like a coaching platform that teaches you how to better understand the impact of your words and your language choice on your mindset and your perception of reality, because it's all formulated internally. And so my buddy, he'll say like, okay, so you can ask anybody in the world, what's abracadabra mean? what, if I say abracadabra, what do you think?
It's a spell.
Yeah, he's like
alakazam.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's actually Aramaic, and it translates roughly to like, with my word I create, or with my word I influence.
Whoa!
And so
I didn't know that.
Now, yeah, and so like back to your sort of spelling, there's another thing that they'll talk about. So what is a spell? It's a word or a series of words that you perceive to have influence over reality, right? And so when you tell somebody something, you impart a belief in them. Like, think of, I have a big nose, but when I was little, my nose outgrew my face a lot faster. So, and then somebody told me I had a big nose. So every time I looked in the damn mirror, I just saw nose, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I got chinky little eyes. I got a big nose. I couldn't even see my eyes. I just saw nose. Like, your reality becomes hyper fixated because someone casts a spell on you because you bought into something, the belief. And so like, we end up under these spells for most of our lives, like limiting beliefs mostly, or like judgments of self that are devaluing us. And sometimes this is the perfect place, because a gym, it's a fucking, there's crazy shit everywhere. Yeah, you still have to manage safety, but it's a relatively sterile environment relative to like the world out there. You're in here. We can stretch your edges here because it's a controlled environment. I'm your coach. I'm managing safety. I'm managing load. I'm managing complexity. I'm going to put you in a position where even if you don't do it right now, you're going to be able to do it in the next session or two, because I want to build stack wins. Because once we have momentum, baby, there ain't no stopping you. You're a fucking juggernaut. You know what I mean? That's another one, right?
Yeah. That's my favorite right there.
Oh, yeah? Juggernaut?
Oh, I love the Juggernaut. He's a great character. Oh, my gosh. I love every single thing you're saying here, man. And you're absolutely right. It is a lot about the environment, about like what you create for your clients is the outcome that they're going to get, and how you speak to them. You mentioned that a lot of people sometimes, we've had people say things to us throughout our lives that have impacted and influenced our decisions long after we even remember that they told them to us. This is what is so funny about us, and how it's almost like these spells, these entities that have been placed on us throughout our lives will stay with us, and even especially if they're traumatic. If I mean, dude, I can remember the very first time, like a girl embarrassed me in front of a group of people in the 6th grade. I can remember that. There are things that stick with us and influence us and shape our personalities. And learning, you mentioned, let that shit go. You said that earlier in this episode. Learning to let that shit go is a learned skill. It is something that sometimes people never learn. People hold on to that trauma. People impose that trauma on people who are underneath them. Their kids, their coworkers, their colleagues. They take that trauma and they try to paste it on somebody else's face. Hey, you got a big nose.
Yeah.
Someone at one point said that to them, and now they say it to someone else. This is a place where you really learn that it's one of the only healthy ways that somebody can actually learn to get that away from them, learn to let go of that kind of trauma. And maybe they open up and tell you about it. Like, hey, you just so you know, I've had a conscious thing with my weight for the last 25 years. Yeah. I've never been okay with myself. Working here for the last 6 months is the first time I've ever actually looked in the mirror and been proud about anything. I've had people say that.
Yeah, man, I believe it. It's like, what feels better as a coach than to hear somebody say that, like, and to feel safe telling you that.
Mm-hmm. No, nothing. It's you learn when you're in the business of people that's the business that you're in. You're in the business of helping people. To me, that's fulfillment. People, we get a lot of, we've had a lot of entrepreneur, business mindset, finance guys talking about, the stock market, make money, this and that. And I've quickly realized it doesn't take a lot of those conversations to realize that the way those people think is flawed. It's missing something. Money isn't wealth. That's not happiness. You want to be happy? Invest in people. You want to be more happy? Change their lives. You will get sick. There's something Robin Williams said early on in his career before he passed that I absolutely just clung to. And I heard it probably when I was 25, 26. Something to the tune of, you want to really get sick and tired of life? Focus on yourself. You'll get sick and tired of taking care of only you real right quick. You want to feel fulfillment? Learn how to take care of other people around you. Learn how to care for them. Care for their needs. When you think about other people, that's where you find happiness. That's where you find fulfillment.
This could get deep. This is good. My issue is I'm going to be vulnerable here. I like these type of conversations.
Me too, man.
Just for anybody listening, like, to be of service and then to learn also to receive, right? Like, because I could see it in you too. The battery is fully charged. It recharges every day, every time you get a win. But also you also have to learn that everything works off reciprocity. And this has been a big challenge for me. So I just wanted to, like, put it out there and just say, like, okay, I'm a giver that can keep on giving. And I'm sometimes really uncomfortable receiving. But hear you talking, one of the things I've always said is, like, I am rich. I had my little gym in California. I had a network across the world of people that would, like, fly in and do crazy shit at my little gym in the salad bowl of the world, Salinas, California. And it was crazy because, I would travel. I did a, like, Europe seminar tour. I have no ego, man. I like couching it. I want to see the world through someone's eyes that'll show me what it's like in their town and how they live. So, like, I couch anywhere I go. Today, one of my students that was part of the online community that we had it on it picked me up at the airport. We had breakfast and he dropped me off here, right before the podcast. We hung out for like 3 hours. To me, that's rich. I know that true wealth is measured in the quality of your relationships. And if you can maintain a high quality of relationship, then you can expand it. But first quality and then because quantity of relationships
not quantity,
is noise.
yeah. Important distinction.
Yeah.
But
if you could do both by being of service and allowing, this is the thing, like, I feel like, oh man, you don't have to do that. He's like, no, I got you. Like, you tell me where to go, I'll be there. I'm like, fuck yeah. And then we got to hang out and I'm like, you know what? Sometimes in my life, I would be like, no, I'm going to rent a car. I don't want to inconvenience you. But then I would have robbed us of having a meaningful opportunity to connect.
You would have robbed him of the opportunity to actually give you something.
And that's
given to you.
And that's my point.
Yes.
Is like, because of these spells and because of all these other things, like, no, I don't want to impose. I don't want to like inconvenience anybody. And now I'm realizing, because I'm older, grayer, maybe a little wiser, I don't know. They're like, oh wow, it actually is meaningful to allow people to take care of you too. So if you get good at one side of it, make sure you start to learn to get good at the other side of it too. You know, when somebody says something nice about you, learn to accept it as truth, at least in their eyes, until you can accept it in your truth in your own eyes. That's been a big one for me. And you know, like Rogan, I was hanging out with Rogan at his comedy shop, and he introduced me to Tony Hinchcliffe. He's like, man, this is John Wolf. He's like one of the best trainers in the world. And I got uncomfortable. I'm like, I was like, fuck, that.
But he means
that was not the right way to honor that compliment. And I, I'm like, you know what? I need to make sure I do a better job of just accepting and genuinely thanking somebody for that. To be seen that way is really great blessing. But you know, you have to be comfortable enough to receive, I guess. And this is me just 2 years ago, this experience, or a year and a half ago. So I'm still working on it. But I just wanted to say that if anybody who's a coach and you subscribe to all the other things that we talked about, which I think are a great series of perspectives to get you to be maximally like to be out there and do the right thing for the right people, do the right thing for yourself. I just wanted to add this little element because, man, I'm still working on it.
It's a great point.
It's a great point, and it's something that I'm right there with you, man. I struggle with that. I struggle a lot more with that than I do with giving of myself to people. Giving to guys like us, I think giving of ourselves to other people, we've learned at a very early on age to instill in others, and that there is reward there. But being the recipient of someone's compliment, having a fan run up to you and shake your hand and like they recognize you, they know you, that can be very off-putting at first. Yeah. You don't really know how to no, come on now. But if you learn how to appropriately say thank you, I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's been a lot of hard work. I've been doing it my whole life. I really appreciate you following along. That's big, because you're also validating them. You know, they want to be able to tell people that they did meet you, that they know you, that they could, you know, tell people about what you've done for them. And that's huge. That's great, man. Yeah. So and this is not the first time I've heard Rogan talk about this. How long have you actually worked with Rogan?
So, you know, it's funny. When I moved to Onnit, when they said, okay, you've been designing this education system, we're going to open the gym. It was August 2014. So that's when I moved to Austin. You know, I was married at the time. We just got into the apartment. I'm like, okay, babe, I'm gonna take you to IKEA. You know, like, we gotta do some shopping for the house. Everything was in the U-Haul. There's not enough stuff for the apartment. But then I get a text. So, hey, John, and I don't recognize the number. It's Aubrey. Oh, it's my boss. Hey, Joe's in town and he wants to get a workout in. I'm like, oh shit. I don't want to make a bad impression my first week, you know. And then so I'm like, start sweating because like in the preceding days, like everybody was like, Joe was coming into town, people knew, but they thought he was gonna come in on Friday and come into the office, and everybody's like, you know, they really respect him. He's the, in many ways, the backbone that drove, like, he's the engine that drove that business forward that we all benefited from. You know, without his the awareness that he created in the marketplace and the willingness to adopt and try some of the things that
and he's a real practitioner.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
a huge believer in what you guys do.
And so that first week, I can't go to IKEA. Sorry, you know, like gotta go train Joe. What am I gonna do? You know, it's like, oh, you know what? He's kicks like a mule.
Yeah, you've seen it. Yeah, it's insane.
I'm gonna fuck his hips up. I'm gonna tune those hips up, and he's gonna kick harder. You know, that's what I was thinking, right? And then, but I'm thinking like, okay, half restorative. I get to the gym, and Aubrey like pulls me aside. So it's probably like August 20-something, 2014.
Yeah.
And he's like, kick his ass, or he won't respect you. I was like, nah, man, that's not usually how I do things the first time. I want to like learn and do. He's like, kick his ass. Or,
Yeah.
so I threw like everything in the
Yeah,
kitchen
what did you
sink.
do to it? I mean, do you remember? What was it?
It was just everything mean I could do to your hips, but like with every tool. You know what I mean?
Of course,
or
yeah.
just like something with every tool, but all just very hip centric. Because I was like, man, it's all in the hips, man.
Yeah,
Happy Gilmore,
That's right.
you know,
yeah.
like,
Chubbs.
Chubb said it. It's all in the hips. It's all
Just teasing the tension.
Yeah,
Just teasing the tension.
yeah, exactly. But it was awesome. It was really cool because I felt like I earned Joe's respect that day, and it was a really great experience. And then, but at some point in time, he's like, "Bro," he's like, "All right, why is it everything you had me do is fucking my hips up?" I was like, I kind of wanted to do that, you know. He's like, "No, man, I'm good now." It was like just a bam, 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 because I was told to do it, you know, like. It was like, I'd rather just like build it up and like sweet talk you for a while,
Get the process going.
Yeah, you know, but it was a great experience, and it was fun because the next day I get another text from a number I don't recognize. He's like, "Hey John, this is Joe Rogan."
There you go.
I woke up today and my ass was sore in the weirdest way. I was like,
You're welcome.
This is now my claim to fame.
Sir,
You hang out with the wolf for any significant amount of time, and you too will wake up the next day with an ass sore in the weirdest way. And I like to believe I've lived up to that reputation since that day. No, yeah. So really, it was few and far between that Joe would be in town, and then he moved to Austin, and we got to work together more frequently and really kind of build trust in our relationship.
You work with him now?
No,
Like,
I haven't.
no?
I haven't. I'm actually in San Antonio. He's still in Austin. I might hit him up every once in a while, just check in and see how he's doing. And I'm really thankful we have a good relationship. But that dude's like wielding the energy of the universe, bro.
I know.
Like and I just told him, like, anytime I get to work with him is, hey man, I'm just here to take care of you. You know, you do a lot of the things that I benefited from really wouldn't have been there without your contribution. So yeah, everybody always wants something from you. I just you show up, we just do whatever you need. I got you, you know?
Yeah. Let me give in to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great, man. That's the best type of relationship, and he'll appreciate that, because you're right. Everybody wants, I mean, anybody at that level of anything, everybody wants something from you. But it's no, that's great, man. This has just been, I mean, seriously, one of the most incredible, rewarding, very different podcast episodes we've ever done. We're on episode 111, 112, something like that. Yeah, man. I can't even tell you. Seriously, making the trip, coming in, doing the podcast. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
We really appreciate it.
Everything, the talk, and yeah, man. Is there? I mean, what's next? What do you really want to do? What do you want to work on?
This is what the $1 million question is for me, right? So, post transition out on it, I spend a lot of time kind of introspectively, reflecting, and I built a big community on it. So one thing, anybody listening, if you're interested in anything that I've said or anything that I've done, then come check it out. You can see I'm going to be updating my website here any day now. CoachJohnWolf.com or Coach John Wolf on Instagram. Try to keep things consistent so it's not confusing. Pretty much just Coach John Wolf anywhere.
Spelled exactly as it sounds. J-O-H-N Wolf.
Yeah, like the animal.
Like
Don't put no extra F or an E at the
E.
end.
He asked, he's like, is there an E after his name? I'm like, I don't think so.
So yeah, just those would be the easiest ways to find. But I'll just tell you, like, I really want to recapture and re-engage a lot of the community members that I used to serve. So I'm putting together a free community where I'm adding a ton of like entry points to a lot of these modalities. It's not going to get you like down the rabbit hole, but like, I wonder what to do with this weird tool. I wonder, just like little toe dips into things that inspire you. Like, it's like, which rabbit hole do I want to dive down?
Yeah.
That's a big question in life. Which hole do you want to dive down?
Yeah.
Or dive in? Face first? I don't know. Whatever you want. But you got to choose, and choose wisely.
You will wake up with parts of your ass sore that you didn't know could ever be sore.
He chose poor. poorly.
Good movie.
Yeah, I love Last Crusade.
Oh,
man.
me too, man.
But yeah, so that free community is one thing, and then
Is that it? Right? Is that where?
you
Wolf
found
Pack?
it.
Yeah,
So
right there.
so I'm an advisor for this platform called Ensemble. So it's kind of like a play on words, right? Where's it at? It's Ensemble.
Ah.
SOMBLE or BLE?
Yeah, SOMBLE, and it's a platform for coaches to disseminate primarily fitness content, and I'm advising them. So I had them build this community functionality because, man, I get overstimulated on traditional social media. So like I can't keep up with my people when I'm getting flooded with a whole bunch of like new people I don't really know and like bots and like, so you're in my community, I go in there and I actually answer questions and coach, like it's because they're my people. They said yes, right? And so from here I'll be offering Ensemble, which you can reach via my website or if you visit ensemble.com and just search for John Wolf, you'll see my profile and you can jump right in the pool right there to the community for free. I have a free 7-day mobility course on there right now. So if you're wondering, how do you get your joints feeling better and exploring some new movements, they're pain free, then just jump on it. It's just, like I said, I'm lucky enough that I've done some things in my career where I really want to make sure I'm providing value up front, and through that, there's going to be an evolution of the community eventually. But right now, what I'm doing is really I've dove in the last 6 months, started doing online coaching, and so I've realized in that recent work with my client that for me to really feel fulfilled online coaching, like I want to be able to have an in-person experience. So now I'm offering, it's not the same rate you're going to pay everywhere else, but if I taught a seminar, I charge usually minimum $5,000 a day to show up and teach. And so I'm giving my clients that they don't have to pay that rate because it rolls into like usually a 6-month program. Sure. But it's like they show up, we do a mobility assessment, we do a light strength assessment. I put them on the table and work them through a bunch of range of motion assessments, like almost like a PT would.
Yeah.
But doing some facilitated stretching, getting some sleeping muscles to wake up a little bit, like, hey, this muscle doesn't know it's supposed to do something, so just bring some awareness. And then we do a whiteboard session after I cook them dinner. We have dinner, do a whiteboard session. We talk about, where they're at, the goals they told me what they wanted to accomplish. And they're like, okay, this is what I saw. This is a better assessment of where we are and where I see limitations. Let's draw out collaboratively the roadmap to some degree. And then the next day we do a bunch of similar things, but we actually put into practice some of the fundamental skills we teach that are going to be part of the recurring part of the program, and then put it through the workout. And then, hey, this is your program. You're going to have all these digital resources. Guess what? Delivered Ensemble. And you have access to me, in an asynchronous form. You send me videos, I can see, you can communicate with me through there. And we have once a month coaching calls, once a month, hour-long coaching calls. We go real deep, talk about a lot of the stuff we've been talking about here.
Yeah. Like,
because I can give you a program, but if we don't get the mind right and in alignment, or I'd say, yeah, we have that coaching call, but man, if somebody's having some type of crisis, I'm like, you got time to get on the phone? Let's break this down right now. Cause like if I'm going to be your coach, then I'm going to step up when I need to, as long as I have the opportunity to, and you provide me the opportunity to, the trust is there. Like my job is to remove, if when I was a leader and executive at the place, is like, okay, my customers are, I got to answer to the CEO, and I got to answer to everybody who answers to me. Those are my customers, right? Like, I'm squeezing the middle. That's the way it is. But who cares? I got to serve both. And when I have my clients, it's like, hey, I've just got to show up, and I remove obstacles. So the people that reported to me, my job as leader, what do you want to accomplish? What are the obstacles to get us there? Like, were the KPIs? Cool. What are the obstacles that are in the way? I remove obstacles. Now go get it. And that's what I want to do for my coaching clients. So yeah, that's right now. It's going to be a free community. kind of like higher ticket coaching, like that. I know you guys do here as well, and I love the branding because it's all the superhero shit. I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. The Juggernaut. That's right. That's probably why it got in my head, because you have a Juggernaut. Program.
Yeah, we do. You like that, huh?
Yeah, dude. I might like that. I might like that a lot. But yeah. So right now, just because I'm really getting back, and I want to make sure I don't overcommit and try to do things that it scales. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how well I can scale this level of like commitment and intimacy. So right now it's free community because it's just giving, and it's just like showing up and having some touch point without having to qualify people financially. And then those people who really raise their hand and want to invest in my coaching services, then they'll pay the premium to do so, and I'll take care of them with all the resources I have and all the connections I have. Like, if you need to meet somebody that has a skill set I don't have, then I'm put you in the network. However, I can take care of it. It's kind of our concierge, I guess.
Yeah,
and so and then eventually I'll be adding other things, but right now that's what I can commit to in the very short term, and make sure that I do whatever I do it to the standard that I really want to hold myself to.
Oh, that's great.
Very
job.
cool.
Very cool, man. Yeah, it seems like you've got all your bases covered, and it's a great sounding program. So congrats, man. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy for you. What's up, everyone? Hope you enjoyed that episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. John Wolf was amazing. Such a cool discussion. I know I learned a lot from it. I hope you guys did as well. If you guys want to see other episodes inside of our playlist on the podcast, it's going to be right here.